You go do it. You deal with this.
That's quite big.
Go.
What's up? I'm Syrobe, and you all have been using Frostbite the wrong way. I am back again, finally, with my mathematically correct Frostbite build. It's been a while, so please hit that subscribe button and help us finally hit 100,000 subscribers together. We're so close, and it would mean a lot to me since I edit all these videos myself. And I'm sure a lot of new players will be joining us this Christmas, especially since Elden Ring just won Game of the Year and dedicated it to Bill Clinton.
I think I want to nominate this award to my Reformed Orthodox Rabbi, Bill Clinton. Thank you, everybody.
Joking aside, Elden Ring actually has a holiday sale going on right now. Pretty good deal for a game that only came out 9 months ago. But anyways, as is tradition, I have made several mathematically correct videos on my channel. However, I have never done Frostbite. The reason is there is no statistical way to increase how fast Frostbite can build up. Currently, the fastest way to apply Frostbite is with Freezing Mist at 120 Frostbite buildup a second. Yes, it even has more buildup than Borealis Mist, but Dragon spells are broken, so it also deals a ton of damage, and honestly, 10 less Frostbite won't make much of a difference anyways. As for weapons, the highest Frostbite buildup on a single melee attack would be Help and Steeple. After using its Ash of War, it gets 80 Frostbite buildup per melee attack. Frostbite can only be applied once every 30 seconds at max, unlike Bleed, which has no cooldown. And every time you apply Frostbite, it becomes harder to apply the next one as the resistances of enemies will increase, which applies to all status effects. That's where my build comes into effect. As you saw in the intro, this build focuses around the Death's Poker, but it's more than just that, and it actually gets pretty complex. I'll be showing you exactly how to min-max this build with your stats and gear the way I do, and I'll also be introducing a brand new segment to the channel, which I've coined the term as speed building. Basically, I plan out a build like the one in this video and speedrun a fresh save file to see how fast I can collect all the pieces, because 90% of this build can actually be completed without fighting a single enemy or boss. Seriously, I'm not joking. But before we get into that, you wouldn't happen to be a massive weeb, would you? Good. Me either. But in the off chance you are shameless enough to publicly admit that, NordVPN is supporting my channel with a special Christmas deal that can let you watch a ton of anime. I have a unique code at nordvpn.com/Syrobe that allows you all to get a 2-year plan with a huge discount, plus 4 additional free months. With this, NordVPN will allow you to bypass region locks. Region locks are most frequent on websites like Netflix because almost every show available on your account depends on the country you're watching from. Thanks to NordVPN, you don't need to live in Japan. You can just connect to Japan's servers, which gives you instant access to those exclusive shows that you couldn't normally watch. Now I'm able to watch my favorite anime like Chainsaw Man, Blue Lock, Bleach, and Rick and Morty. This is only possible with NordVPN. On top of this, NordVPN provides premium VPN services that allows you to browse the internet safely, but most importantly, freely. It helps keep all your devices safe and secure by hiding your IP address and encrypting your traffic. This helps shield your data from snoopers and cyber attacks. NordVPN also has an amazing feature known as Threat Protection. This feature will guard your device against dangerous websites, sussy links, malware trackers, and intrusive ads, and prevent them from infecting your device. The cherry on top is a 30-day money-back guarantee. So get the exclusive NordVPN deal now using my special link at nordvpn.com/Syrobe that I'll leave in the description below, and enjoy. For a quick refresher, Frostbite applies a debuff that lasts for 30 seconds, which means you can't frostbite an enemy that's already been frostbitten. Frostbite inflicts damage equal to 10% of a normal enemy's max HP and 5% max HP for any bosses, plus 30 flat damage. It also applies a debuff that lasts for 30 seconds and does 2 things. Number 1, the Frostbite debuff increases all damage taken by 20% for 30 seconds. Number 2, the debuff lowers stamina regeneration for 30 seconds. In PvE, the second effect will actually have no effect on any enemy, but the first part is what we want. You can tell if an enemy has the Frostbite debuff because they appear pale with a sort of icy mist particle effect. Once you wait 30 seconds, they will defrost and you can apply it again. But any sort of fire damage, no matter how small, will instantly melt the Frostbite off an enemy, which brings me to my build. This build makes use of 2 great swords, the Death's Poker and the Blasphemous Blade. So let's break it down. The Death's Poker is a great sword that scales with Dex and Int, while the Blasphemous Blade is another great sword that can be power stance to reset the Frostbite debuff from Death's Poker. They have amazing synergy as they both deal really high damage, and to make it viable at level 125, you want your stats and gear to look like this. A plus 10 Death's Poker gets a B tier in dex scaling, and it's a contender for one of the best weapon Ashes of War in the game with Ghost Flame Ignition. It's also ironic, despite the move being called Ghost Flame, it actually deals 100% magic damage regardless of how you use it, and it does absolutely zero fire damage. This Ash of War is super unique and even has 3 different ways it can be used. It also has some of the fastest Frostbite buildup in the game and huge magic damage output. Plus, the Frostbite is a nice chunk that reduces all enemy defensive stats by 20%, and you power stance this with the Blasphemous Blade to refresh the debuff and chain proc Frostbites almost instantly, which makes this build disgustingly overpowered. Here's what makes this build really special. As you will see in the speed build, literally everything in this build can be found in just Limgrave, Caelid, and Lemuria, all while being level 1 and not fighting a single enemy, which is insane. Also, the damage from Ghost Flame Ignition can be buffed with things like Shard of Alexander, Magic Shredding Cracktear, Terra Magicus, and really anything that buffs your magic damage. On top of that, the damage it does scales with your int level, but I wouldn't recommend it as it's not a drastic change in damage and isn't really worth the skill points. So here's how to use it. The first way is just a regular poke that creates a very tiny and delayed explosion. While performing this action, it will chain into another move depending on if you press a strong or light attack. Following the Ash of War up with a light attack creates a carpet of Ghost Flame, while using it with a heavy attack creates a massive AoE explosion. I found that the carpet is pretty much always better to use in any situation. It was also my first time using the Death's Poker in a complete playthrough, but this is definitely a weapon you gotta try out. So be sure to drop a fat like and a massive sub if you enjoyed, because it really helps out the channel. And now onto the speed build. I start as the Wretch class as it gives you the most value per points by starting at level 1 and 10 base points in every stat. I also take the Stone Sword key because we need 2 for later when upgrading our weapons. We can spawn with one this way and get the other instantly at the Stormhill Shack. We'll be staying level 1 for a majority of the time that we collect our items, which is fine because as I mentioned earlier, we are not fighting anyone. I grab my horse and Wet Blade to allow me to equip Ashes of War for later. Immediately after, I needed to grab a Golden Pickled Foulfoot. This item increases your rune income by 30%. We'll be using 2 of them to get some free levels, again without having to fight anything. After getting both feet, we'll pick up our Physics Flask, and since that puts us near fort height anyways, we're gonna go grab the first left half of the medallion, which will be used to get us up the Altus Plateau elevator for later. After this, I teleported back to Roderica's shack and made a small detour in Lemuria to grab the Dexterity Knot tier. This gives us 10 points of dex for free, which significantly boosts our damage for a short time. Heading back to Limgrave past Roderica, I visit a nearby cave to pick up the Uchi Katana. We need this weapon since it's a free pickup that can apply bleed buildup, which we will be using on the dragon that's stuck in Caelid combined with the Golden Foulfoot for a ton of free runes. But as you can see, we don't have the stats to wield it, so we gotta head to Caelid and pick up some more things. Upon first arrival in Caelid, the first item close by is the Star Scourge Heirloom. This will give us plus 5 strength to our strength stat so that we can prep for our main weapon, the Death's Poker. This weapon has a 15 strength base requirement, which means we'll be instantly able to use it for free. Next, after getting the other right side half of the medallion, is Radagon's Soreseal. This will give us another plus 5 to our strength stat, but also plus 5 to our dex stat, and lets us use the Uchi Katana without having to level up. After this, we take a quick pause break to go circumcise the dragon, which takes about 6 bleed procs. After the last proc, I eat the Foulfoot to increase all runes by 30%. You need to make sure you run forward after the big dragon dies because she's surrounded by smaller dragons that instantly die with her and give you a ton of free runes, but only if they've been rendered. Now that we have our souls, we can start leveling. You'll need to put 2 extra points into dex and 1 point into int. Again, this is to prep our weapon so that we can instantly start using our Death's Poker once we get it. But while we're here, let's get more free money. Near the dragon is a Knight's Cavalry that drops Bloodhound Step, but we want to kill it because it drops a lot of runes. Once you set it to night, he will spawn on this bridge over here. And again, we will not be fighting him. If you aggro him, you can pull him to the side of the bridge right here and wait for him to come attack you. When timed perfectly, you can actually force him to jump off the edge, instantly dying and using the other Foulfoot to increase his value by 30%, which is around 50,000 runes. Unfortunately, while I was attempting this, mine glitched out, so I didn't get to increase its value, and I have no idea what happened and can't explain it, so just watch. That was weird. Anyways, I was feeling a little too naked, so I picked up some armor from Bernal. After that, I headed down to the Castle of the Redbanes to finish off my build, because wow, we're almost done. Upon arriving at the castle and going behind it, the first thing you'll see is the little ball that has Flaming Strike in it. We're going to be using this in combination with the Flamberg for now, because killing Rykard for the Blasphemous Blade would take way too long at this low of a level. So we'll get that later, but trust me, this is more than fine for now, and its damage is irrelevant. It's just another great sword for free that we can power stance with our Death's Poker, and by putting the Flaming Strike on it, gives it the fire affinity, so that refreshes our Frostbite as well, which is all we really need, at least for now. Our final piece to this build is the Death's Poker, but the boss you get it from is a Deathrite bird in Caelid, which is pretty tough this early in the game. And as I promised, we will not be fighting anyone, so don't waste your time with him. All you have to do is aggro him, pull him to the side of the cliffs behind him like this, and jump down on this little ledge. It'll look like you won't be able to stand here, but trust me, there's a small collision box that lets you sort of float there. Make sure you are crouching when you're here, because otherwise the Deathrite bird will come to you and try to hit you and knock you off. If you did it right, he will jump off the cliff in an attempt to hit you, but sometimes he will still knock you off instead. It took me a few tries to get right, but it's an instant kill and a free item once you do. Here's a little check-in for my stats and gear after everything so far. Once again, we still haven't fought any bosses. However, none of my weapons have been upgraded. The only one we really need to upgrade is the Death's Poker. So I'm going to show you how I collect all Somber Stones 1 through 9 as fast as possible and for free. Usually people like to buy 1 through 4 from EG, but I find that silly since Somber Stones 1 through 4 are literally free and just laying around the waters of Lemuria anyways. We also want to pick up the Magic Shrouding Crack tier while we're here, which gives us 20% increased magic damage for our Death Poker Ash of War. A super easy Somber 5 is hidden near the Caelid Scarlet Rot Swamp, ready to be picked up. But Somber 6 and 7 is where things get tricky. The easiest Somber 6 is in Mount Glimmer, which you should be able to access now since we already grabbed both halves of the medallion for the elevator. Just take a few shortcuts to the Altus Plateau to get up the mountain faster, which grants us our first Somber Stone 6. Somber 7 is the most controversial one to get. All Somber 7s are hidden underground or late game, gated by progression. Unfortunately, we will have to fight Fatty here, who blocks our path in Volcano Manor. I use sleep pots because we were still pretty underleveled for this area, so by chain sleeping him and making use of the Ash of War made it pretty simple. Plus, I know there's a skip here, but people are saying it's impossible now and that it got patched, and if not, it's just way harder, so I'd rather not waste my time with that. This is also where we need to use both of our Stone Sword keys to get through, one that we spawned with and the one that we got from Rodriguez's shack, in order to get to Somber Stone 7. Somber 8 and 9 are back in Caelid and right next to each other, one from this explosion and the other right underneath it. Now our weapon is pretty much maxed out and we can finally start fighting our first boss, which also wraps up the entire speed build. This took me a little bit over an hour on a fresh save file to complete, and honestly, it was a ton of fun. I really hope you guys enjoyed because I'd like to do more stuff like this in the future. But for now, I'd like to wrap this up by showcasing a few boss fights. After beating Morgott in the capital, I went to replace my Flomberg with Blasphemous Blade, and I maxed it out after I got to the snow area. Most of the bosses were insanely easy in this run, dying in less than a minute. So the late game bosses are where things got interesting. Godfrey was a fight where I wasn't able to really make use of the Ash of War without taking a hit, so I just hit him with the Power Stance attacks to win and had a really cool finish. Fun fact, I actually beat Godfrey on my first attempt in this run, and right after him is the Rada Beast fight, which I also beat on my first try. This build is really that broken, I promise. I also was never over leveled at any point. The Ash of War does so much damage and is constantly being reset by the Blasphemous Blade, which also has very high damage. It made everything super free. The hardest bosses in this run were Mog and Melania. Mog was more annoying than hard because you can't stagger him fast enough with this weapon to cancel his Nihil. I tried fighting him without the bubble tier for his fight, but that ended up just being 3 wasted red flasks, so I put on the tier and after that it was pretty easy. Melania was very interesting. As soon as you're about to use your weapon art, she will pretty much always rush you because her AI thinks you are casting a ranged attack at her, which is when she wants to dodge side to side as she closes the distance. The only thing that made this hard is that it would randomly trigger her waterfowl dance. A lot of the times just directly in my face without any warning, which made things difficult but not impossible. You still do a ton of damage to her with this weapon. My strategy was to use the carpet part of the Ash of War and bait her by walking into it, so she was forced to stand on top of it and take magic damage while activating the Frostbite debuff if she wanted to hit me. I also used the explosion part of the Ash of War if she ever got too close. In her second phase, I played around her Scarlet Aeonia attack, which let me carpet her after she landed. Still, having to dodge these random waterfowl dances in my face made things tough, but in the end, I dodged them all pretty cleanly with my timing and secured the final blow to end the run. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting my channel if you made it to the very end, and I hope you all have a great holiday season, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.